Elevated Grapes Podcast.
Elevated Grapes Podcast.
With your host, Sethi.
Your host, Sethi.
And Stylist Rashi Bindra.
It's time to get started.
Let's talk fashion, shall we?
It's recording. Okay, so hopefully this works. So am I supposed to start like usual?
Yes, you always start.
Alright, so welcome to another episode of Elevated Grapes. I am your host Sethi, and
I am your co-host.
Did you forget your part?
No, co-host, stylist, fashion consultant, Rashi Bindra.
Do you want to add anything else during self-isolation? You want to add in there, because I know you're doing a couple other things.
We'll talk about that during the podcast. You know. Oh, you're having wine. I'm having tea. Like, I am doing no coffee for like 21 days. This is my first day. Day
one, and how are you faring on day one of no coffee?
I passed out in the afternoon.
Fair enough. But it is only day one.
It's only day one. I've had a slight headache all throughout my day. I've done a bit of yoga to keep myself active and fresh. But I'm yoga after this because I want to finish a yin yoga before I sleep. But yeah, I miss my coffee. I'm not gonna lie.
I can imagine it's tough. That transition's tough. I did it back in September of last year in 2019, and I haven't had coffee since then. But that transition originally, that first week or so was quite challenging. Like I would walk into the office like a zombie. I didn't want to talk to anybody till almost after lunch. It becomes such a different way of like just running about your day, and that transition to run your day without coffee takes a while to get used to. But like I said, a week or so, and then I started to transition, and I found myself drinking more water, and then find things to supplement it. So that for me it was like I got rid of the point where the buzz of the coffee wasn't as much the requirement. I loved just sipping on coffee while I was working at my desk. And so then it was like, well, how do I supplement that, or what do I do instead of that? So then I obviously just took a big cup of warm water. It's not the exact same, but at least it helped originally to get past just the feeling of like taking something and drinking it.
I think for me, it wasn't as bad as I feared it to be today. Like my headache wasn't as severe as I've experienced in the past when I've tried to like give it up, or I've not been as cranky as I thought I would be. Like, yes, I've been a little bit more sleepy than usual, but I think a part of it is also because of I've been putting my body through all these like challenges in the past, since January 20th, I think. Right. So I think my body's part of like getting used to that, and I also think because I've been doing so much meditation, and that does help like center your mind, and it does do the whole mind over matter aspect. Maybe that's why it wasn't as bad as I feared as it would be.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that a little bit, because I think that's been a big thing for you. So I mean, today's topic, we're going to get really deep into, I think, the whole self-isolation, the challenges around it, the benefits of it, and just sort of like being self-aware of your thought process and things you're going through as you're dealing with this. Because for a lot of people, not being around, being around other people, or being able to be in touch or in contact with family on a personal basis, or their close friends, or even colleagues, and being around work, and just kind of being just in the one confined area, it's really hard to manage if you're not used to it, or not able to be self-aware of things that are impacting you, because sometimes you just kind of let them happen to you, and you don't realize they're happening, and then a little bit later you realize the effect of them, right? So I think having a discussion around that is really important right now, and timely, just given what's going on and how everybody's facing the exact same challenge. And it's across the globe. It's not just you and me, or like our immediate friends, or in our immediate area, right?
And I think we should just like point out to our listeners that we are doing our podcast from a social distancing perspective.
And that's why you're getting the screen. Yeah, that's why I'm under a halo.
You're like under a halo.
So bear with us if the sound is not, at par. We're trying to work with technology the best we can, and hopefully this works out the way we want it to. But the goal here is to still deliver content, and we want to deliver content that is relevant to our regular types of discussions, but taking into mind, into thought what's going on right now too. Because we talk about lifestyle, we talk about fashion, we talk about business, and this is really we're going to get a little bit about the industry too, but this is really the lifestyle conversation of how to adjust given what's going on.
Yeah.
Which is what we're trying to do right now, trying to create content, from different places at the same time. So, there's a couple of programs out there that we're able to use, and hopefully this works out and it gives us content that we can actually utilize. But we'll get through that and we'll see how it looks once once we post it.
Yes, and if it's not as perfect as it normally has been in the past, that's also fine. We're all learning how to use technology to its max and just still give the best while not being in the same space with each other.
Totally. So I think we want to cover a couple of different areas. I think we want to cover both the self-awareness and sort of the effect on a personal side, and then let's touch a little bit on sort of the business side of it, and from our perspective how it's impacted us and how we've had to adapt to it. But from a self-awareness standpoint, I mean, I can sort of start the conversation with, like, I've been home pretty much since March the 12th. So it's coming upon pretty much a month that I've been at home. I think in the beginning, the first week or so is the only time I think I went once to the grocery store, and then past that I've been doing deliveries and online orders, and so outside of that, other than going into my backyard, I really haven't stepped out outside of the area anywhere. So it's a change, like working from home and having, like, I was trying to create a work environment that I can be comfortable with, and when I do on my corporate job, I have two screens and I have keyboards, like I have the whole get set up, so it's very comfortable to work. So those first couple of days I didn't have all that, and I'm thinking, I got to create that similar environment with my home. And now, now that I've been doing it for about almost a month, I just find it to be a lot. I mean, I'm comfortable. I've found a rhythm that works for me. It's very different than my rhythm when I was going to the office. But I found a rhythm. I think you have to be able to find a routine, like whatever that routine is,
right,
to give you a normalcy in your day. Because it's very easy to get stuck. I'm just going to sit down and maybe I'll start an hour later and I'll watch TV for a little bit, and maybe I'll make a breakfast and take a little bit longer to get started. I don't think you can, especially if you're working, because we're going to talk about the different experience if you're not working and how to cope with it too. But I think if you're working, you have to be able to create a level of routine for yourself that you can follow, so that you are disciplined with your work too. Because it's so easy to fall off, and you could end up spending your day doing nothing because it's your TV's in your house. You have family around. Some people have kids they got to take care of, and I was like, I'm going to spend maybe a couple hours of my day and I'll make dinner now versus later, because that way I can ease into my evening, which is all fine as long as you can find that rhythm. I was talking to a business partner of mine, and he's like, our work, like, they really understand that our lifestyle has changed, and it's not going to be a typical 9 to 5. Like, I'm not working between the hours of 9 o'clock and shutting my computer off at 5 o'clock. I may take 2 hours in the middle of the day because I have to take care of kids, because now I'm homeschooling while they're here, and I'm helping them take care, to monitor them too. So I may end up doing 2 hours between 7 and 9, or whatever the case. But I think having a level of routine where you can is very important. So for me, like, I'll get up, I'll take my vitamins and stuff. I'll make tea. I'll make like a little bit of a breakfast, and I'll sit in front of my computer and I'll do like my morning reports and do all that kind of stuff. And Bill, but like I'm very used to showering in the morning and getting ready and then going to work, where I'm not doing that anymore, because it's almost like I quote unquote roll out of bed, and I'm right away like in thinking mode, and I got like, okay, these are the things the tasks I got to do in the day. But if I run right into doing my work, then I think like I'm not giving myself to get into my day. So that's why I do like a little bit of breakfast and get my stuff ready, make my tea, and sip on that while I'm easing into my morning routine, from like my morning work routine, before I go into like my client calls and all that kind of stuff. So I found that really works for me, and I haven't deviated much from it. Like I'll make sure I do all that stuff before I actually start my workday. And I find that I'm actually starting my workday a lot earlier. Usually like if you're starting around the 9, like I'm between like 8:15 and 8:30, like I'm already starting my workday, because I'm still getting up at similar times as I was before, but now I'm doing a couple things in the morning where before I'd be getting ready and then driving to work.
Right.
So that's for me. So I don't know. You can speak from a different experience, because folks that are sort of self-employed or contract type work. I mean, it's a little bit of a different experience, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I think even before the lockdown happened, I had set a routine for myself, and And so one of my goals this year, and one of my intentions this year was to become more self-aware and have a bit more of a discipline for myself and my personal growth. And one of the things that I was trying and starting to implement was to wake up at 5 in the morning.
Yes, I remember you. Yeah,
And
you were on that. Yeah.
when I fell sick, that fell off the wagon a bit. But now it's but like now on like my body does wake up at 7 o'clock, or like between 7 and 7:30. So I just have to slowly push myself back to like waking up at 5. And I loved it. I loved having that routine. And even when I wake up at 7:30, I do have my routine where I I wake up. I do not actually touch my phone, which is why I don't always like now you get my like responses at a normal hour, not like at my super
So
early hours.
is this specific to COVID, or is this more your routine that you were building in anyway?
I was trying to build this prior to COVID, and then even with COVID happening, I've been sticking to this routine. So I've
Mm-hmm.
not let and since I am self-employed, um, I've not let that part, take away from this routine and be like, oh, okay, like, I can still wake up at 9 and do my stuff, whatever. No, I still make that routine to wake up at 5. This week's been more closer to 7:30. And
Mm-hmm.
even when I'm waking up at that hour, um, I still do my 2 hour, well, 1.5 to 2 hours morning routine before I even really talk to, like, at this point, my parents, or I see my phone or things like that, right? Um,
What sort of things did you adopt in light of the self-isolation that you weren't doing before as part of your routine in the morning?
um, I've adopted doing like a morning 12 minutes yoga practice. It
Mm-hmm.
just stretches my like body.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I do is it's gonna sound so silly, and I know you'll make fun of me after, but
I'm gonna do that regardless, whatever you tell me.
so I actually play a song. Either it's well, right now it's Lady Dada's Stupid Love, or it's
Oh yes, you sent
She
me this.
Wolf. Yeah, or it's She Wolf, and whichever one I feel. So after
You're not
I do
you're
my
not
yoga, whatever.
you're not doing the Tulsi slide in the morning, the Tulsi slide?
No, I'm not doing that.
I did one. I'm gonna send it to
Yes. But so
you.
anyway, so I play that, and I do this really weird jiggly movement.
Oh
So
my
I
god.
just move my body in the weirdest, jiggliest ways, whatever, and it's just this movement all throughout my cells and my
So you're like
body,
Jello.
and pretty much, I just do like these
So
weird like things.
that's really interesting, and yes, I mean, in when you speak it literally, it sounds funny, but I think I think just from a body flow and a body movement, and just kind of like getting yourself to a place where you feel one with yourself. I think it's very important.
Hmm.
Like I know it sounds silly when you with the way you're saying it. Like I'm not taking away from that because I will make fun of you about it. But the point is that like I also see the reasoning behind it because a lot of working from home and being home self isolated and being by yourself so much, you end up sitting in one spot a lot of your day. Like even if you're working or whether you're not working or whether you're suffering, like whatever your situation is, I think in all those circumstances you end up sitting in one spot a lot of your day. That's so bad for your health. It's so bad for your blood flow
It's
because
it's
there's zero
it's
movement.
it's it's that's one huge aspect to it, but the other aspect is, so before I like open my room door and go downstairs and then eat breakfast and shower and all those
Mhm.
things, the reason I do that is because one, I've noticed that, and especially now with COVID, we are like like psychologically we are trying to still be we are trying to deal with this, and we're trying to be like productive at the same time. So if you're working, then you're trying to set that routine. if
Mhm.
you're if you're not working, and you're a freelancer, or you're self-employed, um you are so consumed by what's happening on social media, because right now that's our only form of
Mhm.
communication. And I mean, it's so great to see that everybody is trying to help each other, and I think
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. And there's a lot of free classes and like online challenges which are super helpful. But it can get overwhelming because a part
Right.
of you feels like, oh my God, if I'm not doing something, and right now the whole world is going on this self-care trip, if I'm not doing it, I'm not like being productive and I'm not bettering myself. And that actually adds to more anxiety. It's okay to figure out what works for you, and it's okay to also take a couple of hours to not do anything at all. It's
But I
completely
think
okay to do that.
I think you had a couple of really important points there. Like, I think okay, I think that self care looks different to different people, and
100%.
how they perceive self care, and how they take care of themselves, and how they get through these coping mechanisms. I think self awareness is number one. I think you have to be able to be aware of things that are going on in your mind, things that are going on in your surroundings, things that are going like, and really hone in on, like, if you feel something, even for if it's for like a split second, I think it's important to take some time to process that. I think, you're talking about the overwhelming on social media, and the content that we're seeing, and it's not just social media, it's news, it's everywhere. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this whole coronavirus and the effect of it, and you hear stats about how many people could be affected,
Mm-hmm.
how many cases they anticipate in the next little while, and we're not here to get into all that, but we're here to talk about the effect that has on you. Like, I had a day, I don't know, it was not this week, it was the week before, where I had a number of conversations with some clients, and they were going through all sorts of various different challenges with their businesses, and it just happened, like, they say when it rains it pours. So that one day I had so many conversations that were of a negative tone. I mean, not negative in the sense that they were bashing anybody, but like they were going through so many challenges that
Mm-hmm.
hearing their stories, and sometimes you're having conversations with some of your clients, and they get so personal because of this. Like, they're opening up, and people are a little more vulnerable right now because they're scared, and I'm scared. Like, we're all going through these emotions, and it ends up allowing us to be a little more vulnerable. So it has opened the light to us having a bit deeper conversations with people
Oh yeah.
we may or may not have. But they had so many conversations where clients were going through so many challenges, and it drained me so heavily that you and I spoke that day for a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to have a conversation with anybody. I had, that night I couldn't sleep properly. I had, really bad dreams and all these sort of things because the impact of what was going on in our world around us became so overwhelming for me in that moment, where I was like, holy shit, like, these are real lives at stake. Like, companies having to lay off employees, those employees having to worry about their families, those families having to worry about how they're going to eat their next meal, where they're going to get money from, families that trying to, like, families staying away from each other because they can't hug each other because, the possibility of an elder family member getting sick. And, like, all
Mm-hmm.
these conversations are happening, and these companies saying, well, we don't know if that, next month we're going to have revenue coming in, so we don't know if we can keep our office open. And you hear these things, and it just makes you think about, like, well, what if, like, my friend lost their job? What if my sister lost their job? What if, like, someone close to me lost their job? Like, it'd be so devastating to them, and in turn so devastating to me. Like, I started to internalize everything, and I made it a point. Like, I was internalizing it a lot during the day because, like, I have to get through my work day. But in the evening, like, I talked to you and I talked to a few people, and I just really let it out, because I was also thinking
Yeah.
to myself, like, I can't, if I sat there and internalized it and just kept it in, like, I still had a rough night, like, I still didn't sleep well that night, but had I not opened up, I don't know, maybe the next day I would have still been in the same, like, I was fine the next day, like, I processed it, I let myself go through. But that's what I'm talking about, where it comes to self-awareness. Like, I think you have to, there's things that are going to impact all of us in different ways, and I think that you really have to take charge of that and be like, okay, I'm going through something. This is not a normal thought process for me. Like, one of my coworkers was like, dude, I've never seen you so frazzled in your life. Like, this is not you. Like, who's talking? Like, and she's like, I don't even know who I'm
Mm.
talking to. I was really frazzled that day, and and like, that was kind of like my wake up call. Like, okay, yeah, like, obviously I'm going through something internally. Like, I have to, like, opened up to a few people. But I think a lesson for all of us in this is that we're gonna all be impacted by it one way or the other, and no matter what the trigger is for you. But I think it's, going back to our other conversations about mental health and mental awareness, like, these are small triggers, and then this may not be a big thing for me long term, but in that moment it was something so real in that day that that I remember our conversations that we've had, like, about our past and mental
Mm-hmm.
health and awareness, and I was like, I have to talk to someone about this, if not one, like, a few people, because people have different perspectives, but I need to get it out of my system. I need to, like, roll it out so that
Yeah.
I've said it, it's out in the world. Like, this is a challenge I'm facing, and
Yeah.
this is something that I'm going through like inside me, and I'm not comfortable with it, and I need to tell someone about it so that I can find my way through it, get through it, and then be able to process it and move on with my day, because I still got to be on. Like I still have clients to take care of. I still have friends that are going through normal things outside of this, and like you want to be there for them. I still have family members that I got to take care of. It's like I can't be like, I can't let that be the start of a cycle going into like a zone.
And you say a very, very important point, which is you have to talk about it. And
Yeah, that was a
again,
long part of my babble. Yeah.
no, and it's and I'm actually glad that you've mentioned this, because again, one, like you said, self-care looks very different to others, but the but the reason I did touch on that, and that's not to disrespect anybody doing what they're doing for themselves, that's not by this, but I do want you to be aware that you don't always have to be on all the time, because sometimes, and this is coming from a person who does suffer anxiety, and who's been trying to find ways to, like, in my own way, deal with this. And I'm also with family, and I'm also trying to deal with them, and sometimes my family gets overly panicked about stuff, which is fine when you like hear the news and stuff. It's normal for like my parents to like worry and stuff like that. Sometimes, yes, we are self-aware, but we have to also be careful about how much are we taking on,
Yes.
to not not really deal with our emotions. So like you said, that day when it really hit you and you spoke about it, like, yes, we spoke briefly, and then I know you spoke to like other people and stuff like that, but as long as that helped you in some way, that was the
Yes.
most important part. It didn't matter whether you were doing, you chose yoga or meditation or chanting. All these outlets are fantastic. What works for you, but I will still say it's very important for us to take a step back even from those self-care techniques that are outside, and truly connect to your own body, your own mind, and say, I need to talk to someone, or I'm feeling panicky, or I don't know what to do, or I'm feeling scared and confused. And it's okay to then reach out to a friend, or to even a mental health professional, if that option is there. And I think now they have those options just on the phone, to just talk about it and just be like, I'm having a panic attack. I don't know what to do, because I don't know what my future is, right? Like,
Yeah.
these are the most important tools.
Well, I think like, I mean, the government's put some free services out. A lot of, like, I know, like, my workplace has put out, like, and a lot of workplaces have done that. They're putting out, services and extra, like, wellness, not vacation, but like wellness days if you need to take some time to yourself and not work,
Hmm.
to make sure you're healthy. Because I think they recognize the effect this could have on everybody. And you made a really important point when you just, as you were talking, that you know a lot of us, like you and I especially, like, we're very busy bodies, and like we're always on working on different projects, whether it's our joint projects or individual projects, or through work for me, or like whatever the case. And so we're always on the go. And I think at a time like this, I mean, you and I have just, like, from a partnership perspective, have been very supportive of each other. Like, if there's a day that you're having because you're impacted by something, whether it's related to COVID or not, but like, it's all encompassing to me at this stage, or I'm going through something. We've always been like, we've postponed a couple of conference calls, we postponed a couple of initiations on projects, because right now I think the over like for example, like for me, like my work, like, as much as I'm working from home, my work is a lot busier and a lot more stressful now than it was with pre-COVID. So like my days are very, very draining, and there's days like you and I have planned to, like, have a conference call or start work on a project, and I'm like, dude, like, I don't have the mental capacity to do this today. I have to do some stuff at home. I got to take care of a couple of things, and like, we're gonna start at 9:30, but like I literally, I need to crash, just because, like, I'm in that
Yes.
zone. So I think like, as much as we're busy bodies, like, we're also recognizing our limitations in this current situation and doing our best to work with them. And I think that as a society, and our business partners that we're planning these projects with, like, I think it's understandable, and I think that they're not going to be like, hey, you told us it's going to be here by Thursday, but you gave it to us by Sunday. Like, like, I think that everyone's sort of, to a degree, in the same boat, and understanding that this is a little bit of a different time, and I think it's okay to say, hey, look, there's a lot going on, and this may take a little bit longer than normal circumstances, because as much as you think you can work at full capacity, once you're at full capacity, like your full capacity limitation, it maybe went from here down to here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're at a place where your threshold was up here before, but now it's like it's way down here, so you need some more time to yourself. We were having a conversation with you and I with my sister earlier, and she was saying a very similar story, that this situation, the positive in it right now is that it's giving a lot of us an opportunity to slow down and spend some, because we're spending a lot more time at home, a lot more time connecting with our loved ones, our friends, and those sort of things, and really focus on what's important to us, and not just doing it because you feel you have to do it, doing it because you want to do it, and doing it because you care about that, right? Like that was the message my sister said, and it hit home for me, because I'm like, because I know I'm doing that, I know you're doing that, I know like we're like, so a lot of our friends are doing, like I have friends that will, even if we didn't see each other for 3-4 weeks at a time prior to COVID, now, but they're still video calling me even on a one-on-one basis, like, hey, what's going on? And we'll spend 5 minutes, and then that's it. We go from there. Or a quick phone call, like for a couple of minutes, like, hey, how are you doing? Okay, cool, that's it. But people are spending that time to connect with one another, because they're not out there, even if I don't see them for a long time, but they're not out there seeing other people too. So everyone has time, and it's like, who's important to you? Let's call the important people and spend the time with them to make sure they're okay.
Yeah, and I think also because what this will, whether, I mean, if you don't resist it, I think what this is going to help us is like, I mean, and I think we all at some point in our lives kind of lose those boundaries a bit, and that's totally okay, that's totally normal. I think what this is doing is also reinforcing those self-care boundaries, and especially when you're self-employed and you are a freelancer, you are, those boundaries are slowly coming back in, because yes, you want to be there for someone, yes, you want to help and support as much as you can, but at the same time you're learning to recognize that you need that support yourself, and that's going to come first. And like this week on Thursday, when, due to the other journey that I have begun, when we said that we were supposed to talk Thursday night for our like other project of yours, and
we pushed it off. Like, it is what it is.
And we pushed it up, and you know
what was the messaging in that? Like we all like, it was me, you, and my sister, and like we were talking about a project, and our main thing in our group chat was, this is project is important, but right now everybody's health is more important. So if this waits another 5 days or a week, or that doesn't, like, it's that won't, it'll be done. Like, we're not worried about being done. Let's focus on making sure everyone's healthy and comfortable first.
Exactly. And then the beautiful part about all our conversation today was that we spent those 45 minutes, that hour, first making sure that everybody's mental health was fine and how we're all feeling about what's going on, because we all never really had the opportunity to check in with each other into that extent. I mean, yes, you and I talk every day, but sometimes when you tell me my day is already going fucked, I'm like, I'm gonna let him be, because he doesn't need my nonsense during the day and my random stuff. And then I'll check in, but at the same time, like, I know you'll be catching up with your friends and doing your stuff, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, as long as like my partners and my friends are in some way taking care of themselves, it's fine, right?
It's been like, I'll be honest with you, even that's been tough. Like I can talk about like the stress I'm feeling from a work perspective, and friends that I would regularly keep in touch with, like, even them, like, and even in the evening sometimes they'll call, and like, I know sometimes I'm short with them, or I'm because at that point I'm just drained, and I don't want to, I'm not looking for conversation, I'm not looking for, I just, like, I need to unwind, I need my downtime to bring myself down from my day. Like, I'll watch a little bit of TV, or like, because I'm not driving around as much, I'm spending a lot more time in the kitchen and cooking a lot of different kinds of foods, as I've sent to you.
Yes.
So there's a lot of that happening. So like, I found that quite therapeutic through this. Again, it's good for downtime. Like, it helps me. Like I'll just play some music, and like I'm in the kitchen and I'm just doing my thing, and like I'm not looking at my phone. Like, I don't want to look at it. And like, to me, like, you have to find your way to get your downtime to bring yourself down from everything that's overwhelming, like whether you're watching the news all the, I because I'm the type of work I'm doing, for me the news has to be on all day, because
Yes.
if anything gets announced that's related to that's related to like sort of mid-market businesses in Ontario, Canada, or whatever, I have to be on top of it because my clients are going to call me within minutes asking me about it.
100%.
So my news, like Bloomberg for me, is on all day long. I'm watching every announcement that Trudeau makes or CP24, and I'm watching every announcement that Ford makes, every announcement that Tory makes, every announcement that Donald Trump makes, or even like the World Health. Like I'm watching all of those things very closely, because the minute something is said in it that's going to affect a company or an industry, guaranteed I have one of those in my portfolio, and one of them are going to call me. And if I sound like I don't know what's going on, then my conversations all of a sudden I've lost my client, right? So like the abundance of information that I'm trying to take in on a day, plus the client calls, plus our internal conference calls, plus like the work I have to do for them, like it's very stressful in the day. So for me, if I don't get that downtime, like I feel like I'm just gonna like, like I'm I'm gonna lose. So like I think for anybody, and like I'm sharing my story, but there's frontline workers like nurses, doctors, like firefighters, and like folks working on research, and government employees. Like everybody's going through it in very, very different ways, and the challenge is that they have to find, like everybody's got to find their way to get their downtime, right? And in order to make sure that they're checking in with themselves, like we talk about checking in with each other and our close friends and family, but checking in with yourself, like, am I okay? What do I need outside of talking to people? Like, you do different things, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But what do I need as a person to bring myself to myself?
Yeah.
And so like we're going to talk about you, because you've been on this journey pre-COVID, and I know it's ramped up with all this. So let's share some of that, because your journey is actually quite incredible in terms of what you're doing. Like it's not just the 2 hours you spend in the morning. Like it's a lot further than that. So obviously whatever you're comfortable with, like I'd love for you to share that, because it is quite motivational. Listening to it as a friend day to day, but even for listeners, I think it'd be motivational and inspirational for them to hear that there's, you said it kind of high level in a previous comment, but the things that you're doing that are helping you to cope and deal.
Yeah, so I mean, prior, like last year we had done our podcast on mental health, and that's when I did come out and did mention that I suffer from severe anxiety to a point it does affect my mood, and we did have a huge topic about that, and as much as that was very scary, I'm still very thankful that we did that, because so many people had then reached out to us afterwards and said that how much it helped them.
Absolutely.
This year, like prior to COVID, I had started getting a bit of professional help in just dealing with all of those things and all of those emotions, and it was very difficult initially, and as I was doing that, I had also started looking at a spiritual coach. And just because I just came to a point in my life where I was like, everything that I aspire to do and inspire to be, and somehow the route that I was going through is not working. Something's not working, because I'm always disconnected, or I'm mismanaging myself or my relationship. So something is not right. So I kind of went in with an open mind and said, I have nothing to lose. In this process, what I ended up discovering, I started doing, I was meditating a bit prior, but now I made it a point, like, somehow during the day, I end up doing 30 to 60 minutes of meditation. Sometimes I'll do like a 30-minute morning meditation. Sometimes I'll break it down during the whole day. That I've realized helps me regulate my emotions. It helps me calm down and just put a lot of things in perspective. As that journey started, I started looking at different ways that I can still be of service. Like I realized I love helping people, and you know that as well. I love bringing visions to life. But now, how do I do that where I am still being part of fashion, and that's my love, and still doing everything that I want, but I'm also taking care of myself?
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking at programs and creating offers, for an online business that could still be styling, personal, and start bringing healing to that. And
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity came to, and I guess I'll just say this here, is to start learning Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent a couple of months first understanding what that entails, what that means, what is energy healing, what is energy essentially, which also got me into doing yoga and then different types of yoga to understand my own body flow, and that has made a huge impact in my life. Not just the yoga practice, but
Mm-hmm.
understanding how energy is in our bodies, right? So that spiritual awakening has been happening. So I've been doing
Mm-hmm.
different things, different forms of healing for myself. And I actually just did my Reiki level 1 yesterday. So I've been attuned for that, and which is why I'm
Congratulations.
also, thank you, which is why I'm not drinking coffee for 21 days, because now until there's a
How about
process of
wine?
discipline. Yeah, that's not till April 20th. So
Fair enough.
I've been like, oh, and the one thing I will say, when you start purifying your body through no sugar challenges, let's say no junk food,
Mm-hmm.
no
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
alcohol, no certain things, there's a very different mental clarity that comes.
Yes.
There's a very different perspective that you see people, you realize about yourself too, and you realize your strength. And I mean, for me, every time I now it's come to a point that every time I do a meditation, I get a throbbing pain over here, like so just in between my brows. And according to certain people, it means my third eye is awakening. And you and I both know I've been doing certain healing that does involve my intuition and helping people through that, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's been happening. So I mean, I'm still, out there to build my empire and things like that and keep building amazing things. But I'm at a good place in my life. Like I mean, I will still have my off days and still have days where I get
Sure.
anxious and things like that. I mean, I'm human, but when you come to a point, and then during COVID, so the best part is all of this. So February and the first week of March. Okay, you're like um dealing with this and you understanding this, then COVID happens and you somehow what would have taken me maybe 6 months to achieve or complete had to happen now, because a part of me was like, I get it, I need help, but there are going to be a lot of people who are not as
Mm-hmm.
fortunate as me who are going to need that help, and I want to be there and help them, because right now that's what I'm supposed to do. And yeah, so I've just been, and that's why I have that self discipline and that routine of 2 hours in the morning of doing certain things, of journaling, of like affirmations, of certain meditations, of the yoga practice. And then during the day as well, I'm not again going away from my artistic and creative love. And that's always there, which is why I'm building something that involves both of them together, but I'm now ramping up the healing part a bit more, because I've had conversations. I've had random people, reach out to me to want to talk about it, to
Mm-hmm.
ask for some help and direction. I think right now that's really what's needed. So yeah, that's where I'm at, dealing with
Well,
this.
it's a it's an interesting journey, and like I think everyone has their own way of dealing. Um, and you shared like something that's very personal, so thank you for that. And you like you and everybody's gonna go through a different journey, but I think this is what's important because like you're coming at this from sort of a freelancer, self-employed perspective. I'm coming at it from a corporate perspective and dealing with the day to day and that. And I
Hmm.
think there's crossover worlds, but like there's people that are dealing with both sides of it, and it's so important to touch on both sides of it. And that's we both have the fortune of being able to share the different perspective because we're dealing it from different angles, but nonetheless, both of us are going through different things because of it. Um, now, talking on what you just mentioned, in terms of healing, but the impact of the business side, like we do a lot of work in the fashion world, we do a lot of work in the entertainment and event space, um, and that's obviously been gravely impacted. Everything shut down. No event
Mm,
spaces are open. You can't do gatherings over what is it, 5 people. I mean, it doesn't even matter. Like you shouldn't
yeah,
really be around
we
anybody.
can't just be out. Yeah.
Yeah, just don't. Like, honestly, just stick to yourself. It's not worth it. So I mean, the number of people to me doesn't even matter because I don't think you should be more than like more than 2 feet from anybody, even if it's a family member at this stage. But
So
stick to yourself. But it's obviously it's impacted a lot of our joint projects that we're working on, and some obviously on my individual projects and some of your individual projects. Like obviously, like on the entertainment and DJing side, like I'm obviously not DJing anything at this stage because nothing's open. All the fashion shows that we would be attending or providing event correspondence for or covering, those are not going on. Obviously we're doing this podcast individually at our own homes. We're not in a space that we would usually be with Nav and as a guest. We're testing it out right now to make sure we can make it work, and we'll bring in guests in this environment as long as we're doing the self isolation thing. But so speak to that a little bit and the impact of that on branding, on relevance and continuity of your brand and business, because I think a lot of people are probably quite scared of that.
yeah, so I'm gonna touch on that briefly because I feel like that's a whole different podcast conversation, which we'll
Yeah,
do.
we can maybe do next week and just a whole full
Yeah,
podcast on it.
and we'll do that next week. So I mean, yes, as a stylist and an event planner, my two main forms of getting income like shut down completely. It's all people involvement, but I mean, and you know about this is that, so what I started doing is, the first thought that came into my mind was, how do I take what I know and now put it online? Because once people realize that we are going to be in this situation for a while, that like we still need to have some sort of movement, right? And so I've been actually working on different like personal styling programs that are going to be more like online based, especially with what you have at home. And I'm gonna probably like launch that next week because I'm just tying up a few loose things.
Finally.
Yes, I mean I had the VIP program initially, but now with COVID I kind of had to restructure the whole thing. So I have like an intensive program, and I'm also working on an ebook which I've been a bit behind in, but it'll be like an ebook about all what's going on, and again, personal styling, how basically what I would offer in my signature program. I'm going to condense it in a book as well. So those who do not want to do the program, you still have the guide with you. So I'm also working on that, and that's also supposed to be launching next week. So there'll be a few like sleepless nights, but I'm excited. But yeah, I think a lot of businesses are trying to find a way to now pivot online. And yes, it's very scary, and yes, you have to take a step back, and yes, we have to re-figure out what's going to happen for things like events and stuff like that. But there are going to be, I feel a lot of businesses are going to be giving birth at this time, and a lot of businesses unfortunately will be shutting down, or they will be making a comeback.
I think you said something really important there. Like I think giving birth, like I think this is a time for companies to be, I mean, like obviously some are going to face challenges and may not survive, but trying to find a way to be innovative and ways to re-establish your brand in a new era, because even as this continues on, and sorry, as it comes to a close, or like people get, as COVID becomes less of a regular challenge and the world starts to open up back to being whatever quote unquote normal was prior to this, it still may or may not be the same as what it was before. Like I think that transition may take time.
Right.
Mindsets will change, how they view the world and being out in public. And then we had this conversation earlier today about like how they will be around other people. Like I think a lot more people are gonna be a lot more cautious. I think there's gonna
100%.
be more smaller circle events. It's not gonna be as large scale. I mean, at some point I'm sure there will be, but it'll take some time. Some of them maybe like different age generations may treat it differently as well, depending on their mindset about it. But I think that understanding that the new wave of where things may go is very important to how you now at this point structure your branding and your business and your models.
And so and this can go on forever, which is why I would love for us next week to actually focus a good hour on and I think it would be, and the reason I want to do it next week as well, because I want to be able to share the journey of having those baselines, launching it online during this time, and then seeing the response. And I think that's going to really They have a lot more insight, and there are some things that are coming up for like even the both of us in the next couple of weeks. I think that'll be a better way for us to share these insights with our listeners as
You're
well.
100%. You're 100% correct.
But in the meantime, I do want everybody to please take care, wash your hands, don't go out. There's nobody or no one important right now to see. If you're dating someone, you know what? Social distancing dating works as well. You'll really get to
Yeah,
like
video
know their
calls,
souls.
man. Video calls.
Yeah, like really get to know each other.
Yeah, spend some time talking to somebody.
But on a serious note, if anybody needs to talk about what they're going through, please reach out to any one of us. I mean, I do online video calls and sessions, just to give you space to talk. So please reach out to me.
Yeah,
If you guys wanna.
very unbiased. Like I know the service you're talking about, and it's something you launched recently with some partners. So yeah, definitely do that. Like it's very unbiased. It's very just there to be a support system, and they have like Rashi and her team has like partners in various different aspects that they can chime into as needed.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be our pleasure to help you. There is absolutely no cost for this as well, guys. So don't feel like don't worry about that aspect. Like we want you to be comfortable. We want you to release that anxiety and that fear. If you're not comfortable with me and you like Saturn more, please reach out to him as well. We're all a team at the end of the day. We just want to make sure that you guys are being safe and sound and check in with your loved ones, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
that's all I gotta say.
thank you for
you,
tuning
guys.
in for this week. Again, we apologize about the quality of the video and the audio. Hopefully, it's on par. As we're recording, we're saying this, so we'll fix it a little bit as much as we can. But thank you for tuning in. We will continue to provide you content, both from a podcast perspective. We have other ideas
It's all
that
coming together.
that we're putting out. As we're home and trying to think of to provide content that's relevant, but also still keeps it light at heart. So we're working on some of that stuff. We put a little bit as a teaser, but we'll see. We'll continue more with a little bit more. I know Rashi was like, "You're crazy." When I sent her the original,
I loved it. I died laughing. I died
Yeah.
laughing. I was like, yes.
So I've sent her a couple others to review before we post them, or I've sent her one more. I'm going to send her one more tonight, so she can review it and see if she's okay with it
Yay.
before we post it. But yeah, so like we're still here. We're going to be providing content that's relevant to the point. Some's a little bit light and topical. Some's going to be a little bit more comical, just because we want to make sure that for listeners and friends and guests that the topics we touch on are relevant, but they're also we're not trying to be we're trying to help you through your day. We're trying to give you things to think about, but in a way that doesn't bring you down. It makes you feel comfortable with what's going on around you, because it's not just you that's experiencing it. We're all in this together, and we're all going to get through it together.
That's really it. So thank you guys, and we'll
That's it.
tune in next
Yeah,
week.
we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you for watching that podcast or that video. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more of us and see some of our behind the scenes stuff, subscribe below.
Yes, hit that little red button thingy that's over there and hit subscribe and keep following us for a lot more cool fun stuff.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you soon.